Well, if you experienced the class, then you know it's not just a class in, you know, how to brew, step 1, step 2, step 3. It's more of a whole philosophy, the Griz philosophy of brewing.
He really wants to instill in people to like love what they love to do, you know, because he's so fond of saying, you know, life is too short. Whatever you're doing, enjoy it.
Young brewers read too much.
If I knew what Griz forgot about brewing, I would be good. Just what he forgot.
When you're doing this process, you're connected to an endeavor that human beings have been doing for about 60,000 years. And there's something good about that. There's something comforting to have that connection. But turn off your goddamn cell phone before you start, because it's a creative, artistic endeavor. And part of the reason to do this is another beauty of doing this process is that you can iron yourself out. You can disconnect. Nobody will be jerking on your chain every 15 minutes.
Do you think I take phone calls at that time? No, I don't. Do I have a cell phone with me? No, I don't. Do I have the TV on? No, I don't. I'll have a beer in one hand, or I'll have a whiskey in one hand, and I'll be enjoying myself with my dog sitting at my side watching what I'm doing.
Brewing to a certain extent is like cooking anything. Traditional brewing is you're working with 4 different things: water, yeast, hops, and then the malted barley.
Bottled water is the biggest scam ever perpetrated on the human race. It comes out of a fire hydrant 20 miles down the road.
Studying with the Zen Master Griz is, you know, an awesome experience, and just being around someone who's, you know, been brewing and philosophizing for a long time is definitely enriching to the soul.
I prefer a lot of times to brew alone or with one other person, or in an atmosphere where things are laid back. There's not phones ringing, there's not people knocking on the door, there's not customers in here wanting something.
And we're going to start this whole thing by filling this 5-gallon pot 2/3 full. You're going to put the grains in the grain bag, put the grains in the pot, and then you're going to ramp the temperature up until you see steam come off the surface of the water. Turn the fire off, put the lid on the pot, and lay a towel over the top of the pot.
It's like being the first beer, it came out like, you know, beyond my expectations and stuff like that. But, you know, I'm sure it could have been, you know, it could definitely still be worked on, but it was just like, for the first beer, I was just like, wow, okay. And it was very easy. It was just like in the comfort of your own home, you're sitting here like brewing a beer. It was just like, wow, it couldn't be any more relaxing than that, you know.
And at the end of the 45 minutes, you take the sock and you dip it in and pull it out. Dip it in and pull it out. Dip it in and let it drip. You do that 8 or 10 times. I used to go like this, and then everybody laughed, and so now I go like this. And anyway,
I think the main thing is again with the details thing is that to not worry about all the small things that much, and kind of to get an idea of the whole big picture. And
now we're going to turn the temperature back on. And now we're going to add the malt extract, and that's the goo that's in the bucket. And you know that little voice that always talks to you in your head? I'm not talking about the paranoid schizophrenic voice, the command voice. I'm talking about, you know, the voice when I walk by an ice cream store. The one voice says, you only live once, why don't you go in and have a rocky road? And the other one said, no, you fat ass, you're going to die of a heart attack. You know? And there's this big war that goes on.
You see, the thing is, you could be around Griz from morning till night, and you're not going to know what you're going to walk away with.
So now you're just going to boil it for an hour, adding the hops when it says to add the hops. And then when you're through, you're going to turn the fire off, And you're going to put a mat on the floor, and you're going to take a compass and bow due east.
You have to have that love for the process and then be open to changes while it's happening, because it's old. It's not written in stone, you know.
So now we're going to, at the end, we're going to put the lid on the pot, and we're going to take the pot and we're going to set it in the water bath. You're going to take your cooled off wort that's been cooling off for 35 to 45 minutes. You're going to have do I look like a monkey screwing a football?
If you are doing it, it's got to be something that you enjoy doing. Because, you know, it's easy to just go out and buy a six-pack than brew it yourself.
You want it to be something that where you can come home to and look forward to it, and you can relax to it.
It's definitely a science in addition to an art, but it also is an art. So the details are important. They're not everything.
I'm going to give you a little science. And here is absolutely the way you want to add the yeast. You pour a third of this wort, this cooled off wort, pour a third of this wort into the 3 gallons, pitch the yeast and pour the other 2/3 on top of it. Snap the lid on and take it someplace in your environment that's between 65 and 75 degrees.
For one, it's amazing to be around people who want to make beer all day, but at the same time, we're just as likely to get in conversation about quantum mechanics or sex robots. Or
Well, anyway, it's only going to be in the primary fermenter for 6 days. So you want to get it off of the primary tube and into the secondary fermenter within 6 or 7 days. By the way, if I get a loop that gets stuck, get stuck, somebody needs to come up and whack me on the side of the head to get it unstuck. So I almost got stuck there for a minute.
But to a certain extent, you can read up, you can study, but you're not really going to learn about it until, you get your hands wet, get your hands dirty doing it.
Okay, so that's all there is to it. There's no more complicated than that. And the subtleties of it, if you want to get down into the minutia of this whole deal, we'd be here next week at this time. There's endless minutia. I mean, literally endless minutia.
That was pretty hilarious. I think the first time I came in, Griz was just barking at somebody and going on, and I got a little bit of the same treatment. It seemed obnoxious at first, but it was actually, I found it funny, and he's actually like pretty much of a sweetheart of a guy, although he probably doesn't want to admit it. But
He's a real fixture here in San Francisco, both in the city itself and in the brewing community.
There's always something you're constantly learning when you're doing this process. It's like, that's the whole thing. It's like when you do something, the idea that this is not the end of it. It's like, oh, I got it all figured out. It's like, no, this is just like, I finally have hit this point of it. And that means it's like, there's still more to it. And that for me is comforting. I love that idea.
if you're watching this and you're thinking about starting to brew, you should probably do it, pretty soon, because who knows, what's going to happen, anytime, anywhere. And, something like brewing is, I don't know, I think it really helps you, tie into that moment.
Just do it, and it's like anything, if you want to sing the blues, you got to pay the dues.
If you truly want to become part of the Brewcraft family, you better invest a little time and relax for a minute and enjoy the ambience of what is there, because we're not going to have it for the rest of our lives.
When the bullshit choke chain gets pulled, ride that wave all the way to the shore. You only get so many of those in a lifetime. And when you grab it, don't feel guilty about it. Grab onto it and ride that wave as far as it'll take you. Is everybody with me still? Or am I just flapping my gums here? It's so humiliating getting old. It really is. There's no dignified way to get old. I used to be able to stand here and piss and hit the gutter. But now I got to stand directly over the toilet. I won't make it. It's like carrying a turd around in your hat. After a while, you get used to it.
Do I look like somebody who makes beer?
To me, it just makes sense. Just brew. I mean,
Unclench your sphincter.
I'm just gonna have another beer.
And then the shop. Start over again.